Hi everyone, welcome to Off the Cuff Clarinet, a web series devoted to all things related to the clarinet and clarinet playing. So, it's really cold right now, depending on where you live. Where I am right now, it's pretty cold. It's like 30 something degrees out there, and our reeds do not like it. They do not like the cold, they don't like how dry the air is because of all the heating that's getting pumped into buildings, and it makes them kind of go a little nuts sometimes. So I want to talk a little bit about what we can do to at least try and stabilize our reeds as much as possible when we've got really cold weather and as a result really dry air in most of where we're playing. So the first thing to talk about with this is really reed storage. Now you might have, something like one of these just sitting around in your case, just kind of floating, just hanging out. And these do a good job of protecting the reeds, but if your reed case is just sitting out in the open, it means your reeds are vulnerable to whatever humidity changes or climate changes that your case is experiencing. So if you're walking in from the car or walking from one room to another, they're gonna be subject to that humidity change, and then all the fibers and stuff don't really like that. They like things to be constant. So what I almost always recommend is first some sort of airtight container, or at least relatively tight container. Some people use Ziploc bags. Other people use those kind of like leftovers containers for food. I actually use these sort of cases that are designed for keeping your electronics and valuables when you go boating or something on the water. You can put your phone or your keys or whatever in one of these. And these do a really nice job of keeping your reeds in a relatively stable environment. Now, the other really important thing about that is how are you maintaining humidity? And there's all different sorts of tools and devices and contraptions, everything from sponges and little plastic canisters to what I really like is the sort of humidity control packs from Boveda. This is 72%. They come in different ranges. I just like 72. I found it works best for me. But your own climate, it might vary. You might want something slightly lower or maybe a little higher if they make it with a little higher percentage. I honestly can't remember at the time. So this one is pretty new. And when you have it in a really airtight container, it lasts for a really long time. This is an old one that finally gave out. You can see how kind of crunchy and old it is, and this doesn't really work anymore. But what this does is this is going to keep my reeds, assuming they're in a relatively airtight container, around that 72% humidity. Now, just for reference, right now I'm looking at a little hygrometer I keep on my desk. I'm at 35% humidity. So that's a really big difference. And if my reed is just sitting out here, that means it's going from 35% when it's not being played to 100% pretty much when I'm playing a note. And you've probably all heard that when you get the sort of like really raspy sound when the reed is just kind of stopped vibrating because it doesn't have the necessary humidity, just kind of that, where it's kind of that airy sound, especially if you don't leave your cap on your mouthpiece when you're not playing. That's because the reed sort of dried out sitting in the open air. A mouthpiece cap is super important for keeping your reed relatively humidified. Even if you're just resting in the middle of a piece, or your director or someone is talking and you're not playing, I always recommend putting the cap on just to keep the reed humidified as much as possible, not just for making sure it stays, without chips or anything, and keeping the mouthpiece safe, but just to try and preserve that humidity. The way I kind of keep my reeds in really good stable condition, aside from a good case and a good humidifying system, is how I sort of have them dry before they go into the case. I don't think you want to put your reeds in just straight from your mouth, play, right back into the case, because then they've got a lot of humidity in them. I always recommend sort of wiping them off either with your finger or a swab or something. And then this is something that Ted Owen taught me, was take a little bit of water and just kind of brush it along the vamp of the reed and let that reed sit out upside down just for a few minutes or something, basically enough for the water to mostly evaporate. I usually do this first, and then I'll put my clarinet away, swab out all of that stuff, and then go back and put my reed back in its case, and that usually keeps them from adjusting too much. I'm not honestly sure of the science behind it, and it might be completely anecdotal, but Ted swore by this, especially when he was teaching at Aspen Music Festival in Colorado. He said it really helped keep his reed stable, so I still do it, and I find it helpful for me as well. I hope you found these tips and tricks about helping your reeds survive the cold weather helpful. If you have any thoughts, be sure to leave a comment down below, or you can reach out and connect with us on social media. Thanks for watching, and good luck with keeping your reeds nice and happy.